What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson here at Southeastern 16. Let's get started by telling you about my guy, Andy Ludecke. Are you an experienced entrepreneur looking to diversify? If so, let me tell you about our man, Andy Ludecke, and his business, myperfectfranchise.net. Like you, Andy had it with corporate America. He was married with one kid, another on the way. He wanted to start his own business, did just that. Started My Perfect Franchise, and now he's branched out to more businesses. He's got a trash company, a gutter company, and he can help you do the same thing. Here's how it works. You go to Andy's website, myperfectfranchise.net. You set up an intro call, a 1-hour consultation, and here's the best thing. It's 100% free. You tell Andy about your passions, skills, goals, and the time and money you have to invest in this endeavor. Then Andy figures out for you what sort of business fits your DNA. He registers you with potential franchises. He'll find the best franchise that suits the vision and corporate culture you want. And before you know it, you'll be on your way, and Andy will be making you greenbacks galore. So what are you waiting for? Reach out to Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Alrighty, we're recording here on Wednesday, about 2:30 Eastern, August 21st. I'm Brian. He's Jay. What's happening, Mr. Greeson?
Not much. It's getting close, and you can feel it. I know up here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, this morning, driving to breakfast, I turned the air conditioner off in my truck for the first time since I can even recall. It was 59 degrees coming down Signal Mountain.
Whoa. Hello. I wish I had similar news to report around here, but I do not.
Yeah, and while the fall-like feelings will be enjoyed greatly the next couple 3 days, we both know that come next week it's still going to be 93.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, but also with it being a abbreviated game week 0, we've seen a lot of line movement, and we've been talking about the line movement with FSU Georgia Tech for the last couple of weeks. It was 2 weeks ago. It had dropped down from 13ish, got all the way down to like 11 and a half, 11, and now this week it actually touched 10, but then spiked back up. Most books now are at 10 and a half, including our good friends at Bet Online. We'll tell you a lot more about them here shortly. That total had gone above the key number to 56 and a half. Now it's back down to 55 and a half. And in fact, Bet Online has it at 55, but you got to pay minus 115 juice to the over. And then yesterday we saw SMU go from minus 27-ish, maybe some books were 27 and a half, and it dropped down to 24 and a half. There was a little bit of injury news for the Mustangs, but I don't think it was what was causing this line movement. And let me remind you, this game actually opened at 20 and 1/2 or 21 at most books. So the line movement down is still 4.5 points above the opening number. I'll just share with you real quick the Mustangs injury news. Running back Kamar Wheaton, season-ending injury. 732 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.0 yards per carry average in 2 seasons with the Mustangs. The other guys that are out, not season ending like Wheaton, but the other guys that are out, we're going to be backups. Andrew Chambly, offensive tackle, transfer from Arkansas, started 8 games for the Razorbacks, and then a backup D tackle. So this was obviously just money coming in on Nevada. And then one last thing. Hawaii was 38 and a half yesterday at home to Delaware State on Saturday, late game, but Delaware State missed their 10 and a half hour flight, and we're sitting in an airport yesterday afternoon trying to figure out how they were going to get to Honolulu. And since then, the number's gone up to 39 or 39 and a half. All right. Well, Jay, what do you got for FSU Georgia Tech? You
and I hunted 2 games all the way back in, I don't know, late June, maybe early July, when Bet Online and the boys put their game of the year numbers up. And I know that I got on Georgia Tech at 14. I feel good about 14. My question to you is, if this number continues to dip and it goes under 10, are you one of those guys who would try to play a window?
If I had a lot of money on Georgia Tech at plus 14, unfortunately, I did the same thing as you did, but I didn't get on Georgia Tech aggressively. And so, no, considering the very small amount I have, no. If I had $500 on Georgia Tech and it dipped to 9.5, I'd probably come back with 200 on FSU at 9.5, or something to that effect. But I don't have enough money out there. To
yeah, and nor do I. I mean, I'm not a huge big dollar player. But I just I know that you and I have talked about this game for a while,
right?
And the other one, of course, is in 10 days is Georgia's baptism on the neutral site in Atlanta of Clemson. So, and we'll talk about the whole SEC slate next week. But if you can still find Georgia under the magic number of 14, I don't know if I can endorse anything more emphatically.
And I'm with you there, other than just kind of co-endorsing Virginia Tech on that same day. Bet Online is at 14. Most books are at 14, but I do see 2 13.5s on Georgia against Clemson. That's at Circa in the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas. So, I mean,
Brian, one more week zero thing is, I don't know if you could set a line high enough. I mean, I'm not a big proponent, unless it's an Alabama or somebody who's got a point to prove, of ever laying that many points. But I just don't possibly see any number that would lead me to bet on Delaware State, considering the travel, the issues, all of these things, and it's not like they're taking charter jets. I mean, these big behemoth dudes are probably getting in between Granny and Gramps from Dover, headed for the 50th anniversary in Honolulu. So that's going to be just a nightmare trip. And speaking of a nightmare trip, because you and I have talked about this as we did all of our over-unders this year, did you see the stat on how far UCLA is going to have to travel for its 5 road games this year?
38,000 miles or something like that?
28,000 miles.
28,000.
UCLA's closest of its 5 home games is going to Seattle, Washington to play the Huskies.
Yeah.
And that's almost 1,000 miles.
And hey, they're going to suck anyway.
Yes, they are.
and then there's that.
If they ever stack back to back, like going from LA to Honolulu one week and the next week they go to that border war against Rutgers, man, oh man, give me the Scarlet Knights.
Right? Oh, but they had a big injury yesterday. Mohamed Toure, their captain last year, 4th team All Big Ten last year, out for the year with a torn ACL. So that's a killer for Schiano and company, who have a good defense. He was one of 8 returning starters on a defense that only gave up 21.1 points per game, which isn't necessarily a great number for SEC nasty defenses, but for Rutgers playing in the Big Ten East with Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan, that's a pretty stingy defense they had last year. Okay, so I know you like your number at 14. Did you do anything with the total? Are you considering it now that it's below the key number of 56? If you were thinking over, because
I'm not touching that, because one, we don't know at his 3rd school in 3 years how DJ Ukulele is going to play.
Right.
And while I really like Tech's quarterback, the kid who came, Haynes King, the kid who came from Texas A&M, he also led the ACC in interceptions last year.
Yep.
And the one thing out that Florida State returns in full force is that back 4. So, I mean, I can really see Brent Key trying to shorten this game. So, I mean,
I hear you.
And I'm not a big proponent. I mean, I'm not a professional gambler like you, but I'm not a big proponent in playing on a game I know I'm going to watch. unless you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan, nobody roots for punt, 3-and-out punt. I mean, I do it for as much for the enjoyment as I do for the greenback.
I hear you. Well, so as the lines are, I like the over 55.5. So as the lines stand today, that's what I'm recommending. Now, on the side, do I still slight lean to Georgia Tech? Yeah, but I feel a lot better at 14. All right, there you go. Week 0. We'll put that in the rear view mirror. Alabama coughing up some cash. Wasn't it Lincoln Riley coming after Courtney Morgan, their GM?
Yes, Lincoln Riley was going after Courtney Morgan, who this week was named Alabama's general manager of football. I know a lot of people think, well, how is that any different than the director of football ops? Well, in years past, these programs had directors of football operations, but in a lot of ways, those were guys who set up the recruiting weekend itinerary. Those were guys who made certain the coach had his speech to go talk at the rubber chicken dinner at the neighborhood Rotary. I mean, it was more of an office manager. This is a full-blown general manager. Now, the dynamics are not going to be a general manager that we're used to, like, say, in Major League Baseball or the NFL that does the hiring and firing. Courtney Morgan's still going to work for Kalen DeBoer. In fact, Kalen DeBoer is a big reason he got not only hired, but he got a 3-year, $2.475 million deal, which is about 7 times what most of the director of football ops would get paid. This guy, I am certain of 2 things. One, he's going to become the czar of the NIL and the portal, which is theoretically going to be contract signings and free agency for the future of college football. And the other thing I'm certain of, every big school that you root for, or every big school in every big conference, will have one of these by Thanksgiving. Because I don't know, yes, we pay football coaches too much money. They earn far more for the school than they get paid. But when we're paying teachers $48,000 a year and we're paying Jimbo Fisher $75 million not to play, something is broken with the system. And then, of course, a whole lot of people want to look up and go, well, there's not enough money to pay the fans. Bull snot. We're paying Brian Harsin tens of millions of dollars to sit on a beach with his Waffle House waitress wife and probably with his Lily from AT&T lookalike best friend helper. And we all know what Jimbo's getting not to do anything. So there is money. The amount of money for the big boys is not important, but managing NIL, managing the portal, running a program, you don't have time to coach football at that point. You need a general manager.
Yeah, and they got to switch the dates around on the early signing day and all the portal opening and closing. It all runs together there in December, and it's absolute madness. Even for teams that aren't going to bowl games, it's madness. And then if you're preparing to go to the CFP or a New Year's Six, it's even more maddening. All right, so you think that the SEC should go back to divisions, and you've got an idea or two on how to handle it. I kind of like this from the green room, maybe cutting a 12th or cutting out a non-conference game, and explain your reasoning on this.
Okay. Well, a couple of reasons. One, SEC teams don't like to share. So paying teams, the idea of coaches paying teams like New Mexico State to come to Lee County, Alabama, hand you a butt whipping and walk out with a $1.1 million check nauseates them. And it's not like that didn't just happen within the last 8 months. But right now, and I'm not 100% because I don't know how you can figure out and keep the traditionalists happy, but they've already blown up the traditional models of the multiple rivalries and however else you want to do it. And I know a lot of people are strongly in favor of making certain the kids get to play as many, if not all, of the other SEC teams in there if they stay 4 years. And that makes sense too. I mean, you want to play the best in the best league. But with the possible exception of 4 or 5 or 6 of the quarterbacks in a very quarterback top heavy league, the biggest difference maker in 2024 in SEC football is probably the guy who made the schedule in Birmingham, Alabama, across the conference. Because right now, Missouri's number 12 in the country, and I've got money on Missouri making the playoff. And a big reason why is their schedule is Charmin soft. They get Vandy, they get Auburn, they get Mississippi State, they get South Carolina, they get their 4 non-conference games, and really, they got maybe 1 coin flip game, and then they've got 3 games that are going to be, they may be underdogs or may be considered coin flips, and that's at A&M, at Bama, and against Oklahoma and Columbia. If those 3 games, if they go 1-2, they're a playoff team. 10-2 in this league this year, a league that starts the year with 4 of the top 6. 10-2 gets you in the playoff. I'm not saying it gets you in the SEC championship game, but you go 10-2 in this league this year, even playing the dregs of the league, you are going to be in the top 12.
Well, I think with Missouri and Ole Miss, if they go 10-2 and they lose their 2 toughest games, so Mizzou, that'll be at A&M and at Alabama, and then their best win would be at home against Oklahoma when they have 2 weeks to prepare. Okay, and then the 10-2 Ole Miss would be losing at LSU, losing at home to Georgia, and your best win at home against Oklahoma. I think if you match up a 9-3 Texas or a 9-3 Alabama, and that's going for that 12th spot, I think the 9-3 team might, depending on where their wins are, possibly.
Well, but see, I think they both get in because I think we're going to have 4. I think the SEC is going to get 4.
Oh, at least I think.
So, I mean, I don't necessarily think they're cannibalizing each other in that case. They're looking over at the number 2 finisher in the Big 12 and saying, "No, beat feet. Your schedule. We may not have had the toughest schedule in the SEC, but our schedule is tougher than yours." And so the divisions at least allow for some sort of balance for the 2 teams that get to Atlanta. Now, I don't have an answer for the traditional rivalries and the crossover formulas and all that other stuff. There are a lot of people getting paid a whole lot of money in Birmingham who they can spend their days figuring that out. Now, my radical idea that you referenced was split the SEC into 4 quadrants. Have the far west, the Midwest, the Central, and the East. And however you want to divide it up, geography-wise, and you base it, and you still can keep some long time and even maybe reinvent some rivalries, and then you play crossovers comparative to where each team finished last year, like the NFL does with divisions, and then you eliminate one bogus. Almost every SEC team can eliminate a game that their fans are not going to miss. The game that every season ticket holder calls their boss and says, "Hey, man, you want 4 tickets to Georgia against Lamar on Saturday? Sure, I'd love to take the family." Now shut that down. Everybody's going, "Well, they open the stadium and they make lots of money." Of course they do. But you want to talk about making money. Take the 2 winners of each of those 4 quadrants. Match them up on the Saturday after Thanksgiving in 2 SEC semifinals. And I'll bet you a nickel ESPN would pay $1 billion for a 10-year deal for that kind of TV programming, if not more. And the winner of those games go to the SEC championship game.
I like the semifinal idea, especially because every SEC team pretty much. I think there's one exception. I think it might be Texas that does not play an FCS opponent this year, and I believe that is all. Let me see if Oklahoma's got one. Maybe Oklahoma doesn't actually. Oh no, yeah, they do. They got Maine. So yeah, I think Texas. Yeah, eliminate this FCS nonsense game. And hey, I could be on board with that. All right. Now for the rest of the show, we're just going to go down I'm just going to go down the board. First off, I don't even know that we've really mentioned the SEC against FCS point spreads, and we're not going to have a lot of analysis on those games because I don't lay 40+ points, etc. But we're just going to go through and we're going to remind you if we have like a season win total play. Oh, whoa, what is this I'm looking at? Oh, let's see if we got some line movement on LSU USC. I just caught this. Whoa, hello. I wonder if there's news about LSU that I'm missing here because LSU, let me see what time this happened. Yeah, LSU moved from 6 to 4.5 about 2 hours ago at circa. And then in the last half hour, they have moved down to 4. Let me go see if anything about LSU has been announced in terms of injuries or whatnot. I'm not seeing anything. Okay. Huh. Interesting. What do you think of that? LSU going from 6.5 to 4 all of a sudden?
Well, I don't know what to think of that other than as soon as we get done with this pod, I'm going to go double my money on LSU because I was on them at 6.
Right.
So, I mean, I actually think this one's going to be a punch to the face. I think LSU's pretty doggone good.
I think it should be, but I have bet on them 3 years in a row in their opener and lost all 3 times at UCLA and to FSU twice. And they've actually lost outright in 4 season openers in a row. So instead of playing the side, although if it were to drift down further, I would certainly consider it. But I like over 63.5, but I'm going to buy the hook to that key number of 63. And I'm going to that game, and I hope I get a shootout. And as we continue the show, I'll go to Twitter and continue to look up some LSU beat writers to see if we're missing anything on some personnel.
Go ahead and search that real quick because you mentioned
Okay.
something that I've got a little tangent on
Go ahead.
I think is interesting. The FCS games, and there's one in week 0 with Montana State against New Mexico, and Montana State is actually favored by almost double digits. But the 2 that jumped off the page to me, and I know Coach Prime's boy can play, and Travis Hunter is going to be a first-round pick. But if they sleep on North Dakota State,
oh right, they're not.
The Buffaloes will get beat.
They're not sleeping on them though. And another team from Dakota opens at Oklahoma State as well, and that could be another one to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that both of those teams in the power conferences will have their attention. Well, at least they'll have their coach's attention, but a lot of times that doesn't necessarily translate. We're still talking about 18 to 22-year-old kids thinking they can just show up, put the helmet on, and you go to South Dakota State, I go to Colorado.
Yeah. Man, I'm not.
I didn't see anything on the Twitter search I did when you were first saying it. That's got to be a money sway. That's got to be somebody in Vegas just dropped $500,000 on the Trojans.
Or one of those big tout services released it and, or something to that effect. Anywho. Yeah, so that's an interesting line move. Wow, and I see that Texas A&M is up to 3 now. Now, I knew it had creeped up to like 2. I didn't know it had gone to 3. Let's see where our friends at Bet Online are for the Aggies and the Irish, which I think is down the board. Yep, very last game on the board. So Bet Online is at 2.5, but you got to pay minus 115 if you like the Aggies. But some other books have moved to 3. So yeah, the market is that tells us we're getting close. Go ahead.
It does tell us we're getting close, and I'll share this. I'm a huge fan of Riley Leonard. I think that kid can really play, and he's a gamer. But a buddy of mine's got a guy who is a manager up there at Notre Dame.
I'm worried about his ankle too. I'm very worried about his ankle.
No. I'm not worried about the ankle.
Okay.
The guy who is in the program told my buddy that, with the exception of Riley Leonard, the only guy they could afford to lose was the offensive tackle who was replacing Joe Alt, who is now out for the year with a knee injury.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I heard the athletic beat writer for Notre Dame on a podcast. He said he would rank him number 3, the third guy on the team they could least afford to lose, and they have lost him. All right, let me tell you about another one of our sponsors. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the UFC to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's all caps, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. All right. So I'm just going to throw out a couple of these SEC FCS lines. If you're not familiar with them, Mississippi State is minus 27.5 to Eastern Kentucky, total 58.5. And we're not going to talk about these unless Jay has an opinion somewhere. The Razorbacks are 47.5 to Arkansas Pine Bluff, total of 56.5. Missouri minus 47.5 to Murray State, total 57.5. And by the way, Theo Weiss got arrested, but it is no big deal. He no-showed a court appearance for not wearing a seatbelt. Really? That's worth a mugshot? I don't think Drinkwitz will suspend him, but if so, they play Murray State in the opener. The Vols are minus 41.5 to Chattanooga. What are the Mocs got a better team than Murray State and Pine Bluff?
The Mocs were picked to win the Southern Conference.
Okay.
And got a couple of guys that will potentially get invited to the combine.
And did they go to the FCS playoffs last year?
Yes. And won a game and then lost in the second round to Furman.
How many does their stadium hold?
Smidge more than 20,000.
I assume you've been there to cover games, or
more than once.
More than you wanted to.
Well, for the first 8 or so years of my sports editor's tenure here, we hosted what was then called for a while, the 1AA title game. Now it's the FCS title game, was played here in Finley Stadium in Chattanooga.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So now let's just let's reaffirm where we are on. You heard Jay talk about how he loves Georgia. You know I love Georgia. I'll just share one stat that I uncovered today and just doing a little research, because they're laying 13.5 or 14. So you don't care that Georgia's 46-2 in its last 48 games, but you know what you do care about is that 36 of those 46 wins have been by at least 14. So Jay and I both like Georgia. I like Virginia Tech minus 13.5. I forget if you like that one too, don't you?
I love that one. I'm just a little more leveraged with Georgia than I am with Virginia Tech, but I love Virginia Tech. And I mean, I think you and I love Virginia Tech because I think they're going to be a lot better in the ACC, because I think that coaching staff is motivated, or they better be. But I also am going to look for every opportunity to bet against Vanderbilt at any opportunity.
Right. And we're not going to have 13.5 and 14 opportunities with quarterbacks as good as Kyron Drones and team that, had a lot of momentum down the stretch last year. And I talked to our SEC or Southeastern 16 cohort, Chris Lee, yesterday before he was going to Vandy practice, and everything he shared with me pretty much rhymed up and matched up with what you're saying about Vandy and what I'm thinking about Vandy. I just do not think they're going to be very good, with all due respect to my guy, Diego Pavia. 2-0 against Hugh Freeze. All right, Florida, Miami. I forget if if you got an opinion here.
Well, I do have an opinion, but it scares me because I think Miami. I mean, I think Miami's got the better roster, and I think Miami may actually have as good a two deep as there is in the ACC.
On
But
paper, talent-wise, recruiting ranking stars and all that, they absolutely do.
But I wouldn't trust Mario Cristobal to teach driver's ed. Never mind try to get behind the wheel of a Ferrari and get them to a conference championship game. I mean,
here's the burning question. Time out. Here's the burning question. Who has the head coaching advantage in this battle of head coaching wizards?
I actually have an answer for this. In a matchup between coaches this bad at Miami and Florida, the head coaching winner in this is Mike Norvell. Because he gets to be in Tallahassee as these two boobs rub up against each other and create more friction than Dolly Parton in 9 to 5.
I just want both of these buffoons to make clock management mistakes, and like multiple ones.
Oh, okay. That brings me to another kind of mini rant theory I have.
All right.
I think every NFL team and every major college team should go find a professional Madden player and have them on the sideline, and then they can say, okay, you got to go for it here. You got to go for it here. It's 4th and 4. I don't care if it's your own 38-yard line. Possession is more important than position. We got to go for 2 here. It makes the most sense. This is
that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. Why have they not hired me?
I don't hold the sheet. Don't immediately celebrate a touchdown by holding up one finger. No, have a guy in your ear on the headset saying, this is what we do. This is it. And because these guys don't want to be second guessed by guys like you and me. Why'd you go for it? Well, I went for it because we wanted to score to the damn touchdown. That's why I went for it. So no, don't worry about it. You guys preach confidence, courage, and character. You preach mental toughness and physical strength. And then on 4th and 1 from the 50, you're going to try to pooch it in the coffin corner. The guy kicks it in the end zone and you gain 30 damn yards.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry, ran over. Miami, right. Florida. Is this the biggest hot seat game, not only of week 1, but the first month?
I mean, absolutely, right?
It's
Gotta be. Let me look at USC's schedule. Let's see what Lincoln Riley's got. That's what I'd be the only that comes to mind, and I got it right here. Nah. Yeah, this is definitely it.
I lean towards the crazy folks in the swamp. I really do.
I do too. Cam Ward, and look, y'all know I'm not high on the Gators, but and by the way, Bet Online has Miami at 3, and the only other 3 I see on the board is at DraftKings. So go to our friends at Bet Online if you like the Gators, because you can get them at plus 3. And I agree, yeah. So that's not a big opinion though. Let's be clear on that. My big opinions are on Virginia Tech and Georgia in week 1. All right, Texas 33.5 to Colorado State, 59.5 on the total. I have not really done a whole lot of Colorado State. Go ahead.
Well, I got a theory on this, and I'm going to be more likely to lay big numbers with Texas than any other team in the country. Because if they get up comfortably, I think Sarkisian would be wise to let Arch Manning sling it around a little bit to keep him pleased and in Austin. So I can see this year's Texas Longhorns, I almost call them the Texas Gators, being a lot like those Steve Spurrier teams and him having to say in the press conference afterwards, well, it's their job to stop me. And I need my second string guys ready to play too.
And hey, If they like us, we ain't whooping them enough. So
Yeah.
those are good questions to have to answer.
Yeah, they are very good questions.
No, that's a good point. With not only keeping Arch happy, but letting him throw it, even though they're up 4 touchdowns or so. Yeah, Colorado State. They were real feisty with Colorado last year, but Colorado wasn't that good last year. Anyhow, okay. South Carolina is only laying 20.5 to Old Dominion. Now, I know Old Dominion has got one of the best linebackers in the country in Jason Henderson. And here I can give you a quick little scouting report. 6-7 last year, lost in overtime to Western Kentucky, 38-35 in the bowl game. 6 starters back on offense, 4 on defense, and trying to look. So they only lost by 3 to Wake Forest at home last year. Lost 36-17 at Virginia Tech. Lost by 3 at James Madison when James Madison was ranked 25th. So South Carolina. They announced Lenore Sellers is going to be the guy, which is no surprise. And yeah, I want to see him play because he's got a big responsibility to Mr. Beamer this year to be pretty good.
Another guy in the needs to figure out a way to not have a good stretch that's not the last 3 weeks of November.
Stoops?
No, Mr. Beamer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, and we're both on under 5.5 on that win total.
Yep.
I didn't say what Auburn's line is. 48.5 to Alabama A&M, 56.5 on the total. Kentucky's 25.5 to Southern Miss, 50.5 on the total. We talked about Alabama's 30.5 to Western Kentucky, total 60.5. That's TJ Finley starting for the Hilltoppers. And Oklahoma's 42.5 to Temple, total of 59.5. I get the I said Ole Miss's line. Oh no, did I not? To Furman, 42.5. All right. Again, we like Ole Miss over 9.5. We both like Missouri over 9.5. Both like South Carolina under 5.5 on the win totals. All right. What else do we need to get to?
Well, I know there's not a whole lot left this week, and we'll dive deeper into all those games next week. And I'll probably go back through and try to remember and write down where we stand on all of them so our readers can have a scorecard to follow the year on, and we can review our results at the end on all the summer over-unders we trotted out. But I think the most enjoyable thing is that in 3 days, I'm going to be able to get up and watch College Game Day from Dublin, Ireland. And I really, of the handful of things I hope, because my money's on them, I hope Tech plays well enough to keep it close. I hope Nick Saban pulls up a pint of Guinness on the College Game Day set. Pat McAfee will.
Sure.
Why in the world not? And I hope sooner rather than later that outside the SEC, that college football embraces novel and different thinking ideas. Case in point, Mike Gundy this week announced that Oklahoma State is putting QR codes on the back of his players' helmets.
Brilliant.
So that if you're at home, if you're a gambler, if you're at home, if he's in the example he used on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, he said, if you're watching a game in a Stillwater bar and Ollie Gordon runs for a touchdown, you may have money on the game and you get super excited and you buy the bar around. Why not zap that kid $50 who just won you whatever you won on? And he wasn't necessarily mentioning about gambling. He was talking per se about why buy everybody else around when you can give this guy a hat tip and a little greenback for bringing you the joy that college football brings all of us. And he was pretty open today earlier on the ESPN interview with McAfee about sooner rather than later, these players are going to have contracts. And I don't see how, and they're going to be employees. And I don't see any other way around that. And he also said the dirty little secret that I think we all know is coming is that power college football is going to break away from the NCAA sooner rather than later. And they're going to run this however they run it. And it's going to need to be regulated across all levels. And there's going to need to be a czar, and there's going to need to be some sort of person who makes certain they're not going above the $22 million salary cap, which I picked as an arbitrary number, or however they're doing it. Because if you want to give Nico Lamp 21 of your $22 million, God bless. I mean, the Chiefs give Patrick Mahomes 45 of their 135, and he's worth every damn penny. So manage that however you want to. Or in Alabama's case, they'll let their GM, Courtney Morgan, manage it.
Right. Yes. All right. So before we get out of here, I was just going to mention a couple other injuries, not necessarily SEC related. Oh, I forgot to mention the one for Nevada. Their running back, Pat Garwo, who spent the last 5 years at Boston College, more than 1,900 career rushing yards for BC. He transferred to Nevada, was supposedly going to be the starter, not on the depth chart this week. And does have a little SEC flavor. Ole Miss transferring from Ole Miss to North Texas, defensive back Asheem Young out for the year for the Mean Green. I mentioned Mo Torrey for Rutgers out for the season. Kentucky tight end Josh Caddis has not participated in training camp so far. Only 8 catches, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns last year, but, tight end depth for them. And their true freshman wide receiver, Hardley Gilmore, is going to miss most of the season with a collarbone injury. All right. I think that's all that we've got. So tell them about Jay's Plays.
Jay's Plays is on a treacherous seesaw right now. Every one we win, we give one back. Had some tough luck losses over the and that's no way to make money, assuredly, because that's why they call it juice. But you can sign up for the free email that comes to your inbox with my picks of the day at timesfreepress.com. Across the banner, there's a newsletter tab. You just pull that down and you can sign up for Jay's Plays. It costs you nothing. And the 5 at 10 is up there every day or every Monday through Friday. It's 5 things I'm thinking about at 10 a.m. And tomorrow we will start our Fab 4 picks. You've heard of most of them right here. I will 100% be on Georgia Tech, and I'm on them even at 11.5 too. So it gets below 10, it becomes a little dicey for me.
Sure. You can check out all my content at majorwager.com. I wrote about why I like Iowa to go over 8 wins, which I think we've discussed in previous weeks. There's also my UFC 305 rewind. My bad on the Bam Bam Tuivasa pick last week, but I did get Duplessis correct on the main event. And Louisville's receiver transfer from South Alabama, Colin Lacey, is out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a big loss for Louisville. All right. I think that'll do it. So we will probably talk to y'all next week on probably Thursday. I'll leave for Vegas Friday morning. And this has been Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. Thanks to Andy Ludecke of my favorite franchise.net and Bet Online. For Jay Greeson, I'm Brian Edwards. Over and out. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.